Oh, welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight is episode 189. Won't you fly high, my free bird? Yeah. Well, we're talking about the Four Nations tournament. We're doing some trade talk and then some Q&A with our lucky fans here at Hockey Royalty. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. As always, the intro is brought to you by Ezera. Their new song, Blind, out now, anywhere you listen to music. And this podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. So the NHL season has been so predictable as the puck has been rolling on each edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out and games for you to get some action in on at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win tomorrow night. Right now, both the odds are at dead heat. Over-unders at 5.5. Odds are subject to change. So get your bets going right now with DraftKings. Just throw down some $5 and get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get 150 in bonus bets instantly when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown can be yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill and Casino Resort in Kansas. 21 age plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. NHL and NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. NHL and NHL team marks are property of the NHL and its teams. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. Well, now we can get to the meat and potatoes there, Russ. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Randy. Yeah, that was epic, man. Those ad reads are getting better and better, man. You're getting flying through them.
Just boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's muscle memory now, you know.
It feels like, but yeah, dude, I'm doing good. I kind of have that like same feeling I'd have like you know when there's like you're like the Kings are in the playoffs and there's like that day break in between like a game. Like that's what I feel like right now.
Yeah.
With like the layoff we have with these two days without any of the Four Nations hockey, and then now the game tomorrow. And I'm nervous, anxious, and excited all in the same mode. But how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. You know, I was excited for this tournament to begin with. And then the USA Canada was like, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before we got on. I mean, I've never felt that pumped up to watch a game mid-game. Like going into the game, I was like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be a good game tonight. I'm ready to watch it. They start throwing down. They're full on check-in. They're, face washing, doing all kinds of stuff. I was like, this feels like Blackhawks Kings to 2024, and it showed with the fact that this was the highest rated game since the 2024 NHL playoffs.
2014.
Yeah, 2014. That wasn't a Stanley Cup playoff game. So this has been the highest rated game watched since then. I think everybody was on their toes. You're seeing tweets from people who don't even watch hockey, like, what the heck is going on here? Like, this is epic, and so I'm excited for tomorrow. Will USA win? We'll talk about that. I think, as the odds are saying, it's about a coin flip at this point. But I think it's going to be a much game to watch. And I think it's going to bring a lot of people to the game of hockey like it did. It introduced me. The last time how I got into hockey was the 2010 Olympics, Canada, United States. And it brings me back there. Yeah,
man. I mean, shout out to the NHL. I know a lot of it, probably with the excitement and everything going on with the Four Nations, probably their own doing because of the long layoff of actual best on best hockey. Even the World Cup, even people were excited about the World Cup. I found it a little gimmicky with the whole North America thing. It was definitely fun and entertaining. I'll give you that. But even at that time, I mean, you had players like Austin Matthews and Nathan McKinnon and even McDavid, who probably would have been on the Canadian or U.S. team at the time, playing on this melded team. It was like, yeah, whatever. So now, like you said, you go back to like 2010 and like those Olympic games and like how the highlight of those, like the real Olympics, like when you see the best on best happen, that's where you get this excitement coming in. And this is truly what it's kind of turned into. And I mean, like I said, hats off to the NHL for putting this on. But I mean, the big shout out I have to give to is the players. Like, I thought I shared a snippet of PK Subban's appearance on the Get Up show on ESPN. And they were kind of talking, like the conversation was kind of comparing, like, okay, what's wrong with the NBA right now and their All-Star game and what's wrong with the NHL? And like he hit it like right on the nose. It's the buy-in from the players is what's getting everybody excited. And even like me, like leading up to the Four Nations, and even when it was announced, like I'll be honest with you, I was skeptical. Like I was like, yeah, whatever. Like a Four Nations tournament, we'll have the Olympics next year. It is what it is. Like yeah, it'll be exciting to see like these teams where we've talked about for years now, seeing the Kachuk brothers play together, see with Matthews and Jack Hughes and those players, seeing Canada play with McDavid, McKinnon, all the mix, and like now that they're finally playing together, so it's like that excitement is finally like being brought on. But it's the players, man. Like the players, that first drop of the puck, like you mentioned, that Canada Sweden game, like they came out firing, and you're like, okay, like the players are bought in. Even leading up to it, you just waited for the puck to drop, and we saw it like the first games, and then the USA Finland game, and then you mentioned the game on Saturday between USA and Canada, like. Easily, like, and there's no hyperbole here. Easily the most exciting start to a hockey game I've probably ever seen, and it's incredible. Like, and they pretty much carried it throughout the entire game. And as fans, like that's where you get that excitement, that buildup, that drawing, where we see like all these high profile names. Like I saw JJ Watt tweeting about it, Field Yates, all these high profile football guys, and even everybody else like talking about this Four Nations tournament. And it's been so good for hockey, and it's just brought out, like, I feel like a lot of the best in terms of like what hockey is all about, in terms of the play on the ice and the excitement that surrounds it. And now it's being like evolved into like a bigger crowd that are bringing even more eyes into it. So yeah, shout out to the NHL for putting this on. But man, the players deserve so much credit for bringing the intensity and really going all out for this really kind of real nothing like trophy that they're going to win. Like it's a great trophy, but it doesn't really mean much in the long run. But the players are so bought in that it's bringing everybody else into the forefront now too.
I know. I had a friend that I've been talking hockey to for years now, and he just never gave it a chance. And he was just happened to be at a bar, and the game was on, and he's like, "Yeah, my friends left. I just stayed and watched the game because like I was so like drawn." I was like, "See, man, like you've been missing. I mean, not every game's like that, but this is what hockey can be like, you know." And I think. Not only have the players took it upon themselves, like you'd heard about the puck drops and Kachuk was like, yeah, we got to do it. Like, whether it was about the anthem or whether it was about starting with the tempo or telling Canada like, hey, we deserve to be here. Like dropping the gloves right away, like in both teams doing that kind of stuff and putting their body on the line. Not only that, and then that massive hit on Drew, like ping ponged him off the ice. McAvoy hit Crosby twice pretty hard. McDavid,
you got that hit on McDavid,
yeah. And it's like they're not, not backing down. And like we talked about this in the beginning of the tournament in our primer, that Canada from top to bottom has probably the most skilled roster, and the way the United States was going to win this tournament was with their physicality, and they have the best goaltender. So it showed in every single one of their games that they've been physical. Now we'll see. With Brady potentially being out, Matty practiced today, so I have a feeling like he's going to play. But that's how they're gonna bring the boom. That's the type of they've been playing together. For so long, and it's the style of hockey that a lot of them subscribe to.
Yeah, man. Like the Kachuk brothers, it's so funny because, like, I feel like it's so different because like when you watch like the Kings play, as we watch obviously big Kings fans and want to see them do well, and we're so admired with their like individual players' success, and even throughout this tournament we're watching Kempe and Doughty, but like as me and you are both Americans, we're rooting for the US team. like, I don't even really feel like I'm rooting for like Kachucks. I'm just like, or even rooting for Austin Matthews, or even rooting for whoever. I'm just rooting for the team. I'm rooting for, and I think the players are kind of bought into that too. Like, they don't care about their individual success; they care about the team winning. And I want you all, and you too, Brandon, like, to go watch the Four Nations Unveiled thing. I watched a little bit of that before we came on here. I probably caught up until the final of the U.S.-Canada game. They do such an incredible job catching like the behind the scenes. You have coaches. John Cooper's mic'd up. Mike Sullivan's mic'd up. All the players, like most of the players, are mic'd up. It's really incredible, like the behind the scenes aspect of it, to kind of get like what the players and to see how like their exciting is. And I remember there was one part where Micah Ruzioni, the goal from the Miracle on Ice game in 1980, he gave a speech to the U.S. team at a dinner. And they captured the whole speech. And I'm like, I was getting goosebumps, man, listening to him talk about it. He was talking about like how important it is to wear the sweater and everything. And I was like, holy hell, like I want this game to start now. So yeah, it's on YouTube. I know Mikey Money saw in the chat. I believe they shared it on the NHL YouTube channel. They even shared it on the Twitter or X channel. So yeah, go check it out. Like I said, I think I'm like halfway through, but it's been incredible to watch. So yeah, like I'm excited for this game, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm just pumped.
Yeah, I mean it's been great, and you look at multiple players have said from the Canadian teams and announcers that this is the highest level of USA hockey that they've seen. That from the time of 2010 to now, the United States Development Team Program, like has really taken the type and talent of players that we've been able to produce out to the next level. And it's not just a player here, a player there, and it's constantly, pumping out those athletes. Where in previous years we probably would have been like Finland was this tournament. Like you get 3 or 4 injuries, you don't really have any quality backups. I mean, they had a defenseman playing that's never played NHL hockey before, So like now we have the next guy up, and obviously, we want Quinn Hughes to play. We want McAvoy to play, which he's out. If anybody didn't know that, he's going to be out. He's actually has an infection in his AC joint. So he's already back in nursing that with the doctors. I guess everybody's in Boston, but he's back with his family in Boston. Quinn Hughes wasn't able to pass a physical. So it is going to be Jake Sanderson playing tomorrow. Brady is questionable. So, but I think getting back to the way this team plays, like, what I liked about it is we gave a lot of crap about Kreider, but yeah. Trocheck in that fourth line has played their role. Like I think the fact that they've done it a couple times where Trocheck will take the faceoff, since he's one of the best faceoff people in the NHL, and then he'll get off for a winger to come on a high scoring line, and so they've been pulling in and out and mixing it up and doing the lines what they needed to do. And the defensive pairings have been solid. I mean, Faber struggled in the first game, and then they switched up and paired him with Hannafin, and they've been lights out. So it's like everybody's trying to win this thing, and everybody said this is the highest level of hockey they've seen play in quite a while.
Yeah, and what's cool is we're seeing a lot of players that probably the NHL world or the hockey world probably wouldn't normally notice, like on the biggest stage right now. Like Jakob Slavin, man, like I've been saying how good this guy is, and people are starting to realize, like, dude, this guy is incredible. I think he's led the team on ice time, at least maybe both games, or either him or Werenski. But Slavin's been probably, I've said he's probably one of the best shutdown defensemen in the NHL, and I think he's kind of proving it on the stage. So he'll have to be huge tomorrow. The guy I just mentioned, Zach Werenski, like I was talking about this with some of the guys at the Kings practice yesterday, like, we're seeing like the best defenseman in the NHL right now. Like that, this is my Norris front runner in Zach Werenski. Quinn Hughes like might be up there too in the Norris with everything he's done, but I can make an argument like Quinn Hughes probably is a higher pick for the Hart Trophy just because of based off the true definition is as him being more valuable to the team than he is. But Zach Werenski, man, like he is just on another level in terms of just this tournament and how he's been playing like this all season, but we're finally seeing it now on this big stage that they're on. He's been incredible. So him, like you mentioned, like a lot of the players are really just doing like probably playing roles that they're not normally playing. Dylan Larkin, who played like I believe like the fewest amount of minutes in the first game, or was really low, scores a huge goal in the USA Canada game. Like comes back and plays a big role in playing that. So yeah, you're getting players that are just like bought in, kind of playing whatever role that it takes to win. And that's why we get excited as fans, because we're seeing all these players you normally wouldn't see in like different roles. Like even like on Canada, they're like limiting their fourth line of like Travis Konechny and like Seth Jarvis, like premier players on their like respective teams now being limited and stuff like that. So it's been like, that's why it gets you so jazzed up to watch these kind of games. And like it's fun, like and then we'll talk about like the Kings players too have been so good. Like Adrian Kempe, I thought they should have given him a bigger role in terms of like, they didn't give him no power play time. Like, okay, like I understand it, like we're Kings fans, we're gonna be homers and say like, why aren't you putting Kempe out there? But like, come on, dude, like this is the guy that deserves the, you're giving him. I feel bad because I felt like Kempe, just because he's so good as an all-around player, they're like, oh yeah, he'll be fine on the penalty kill, he'll help us out there. And he's like kind of gets the shit end of the stick on that part. But we talked to Hiller at the practice the other day, and he was saying like how he noticed like Kempe's ice time was going up and up with each game. So you're starting to see how the coaching staff of Sweden was appreciating Kempe's game. So that was good to see. And obviously he scored the goal. But like hats off to Drew Doughty, man. Like Drew Doughty, first game, maybe struggled a little bit in Sweden. He got caught up on that Kempe goal and kind of got beat a little bit by Lucas Raymond in the corner. And then they had that first goal by Brodin. But, man, like that second game where Makar was out, like he was like incredible, I thought. Like he had that one flub late in the game in the offensive zone that maybe took away a chance for Canada. But, like, dude, this is a guy who's, 35, 36 years old, played 6 games in the NHL, coming off a broken foot, and then gets thrust into this tournament where like everybody's like no doubt saying it's one of the highest skilled, like highest, fastest games they've ever been a part of, and is like keeping up, or more or less been one of the better defensemen on one of the best teams in this tournament. So it's like, for all the Doughty doubters that were out there, like he's shutting them up with his play, and it's huge. Like as a Kings fan, it's me just psyched to see like, okay, if we get this kind of Doughty for the rest of the season, that's huge. But as an American fan, I'm like, like getting kind of cringy watching him make breakout passes to McDavid to score against the USA. I'm like, oh, God damn it. Like, it is what it is.
That was gross.
But, like, yeah, exactly. But that's what it is. Like, that's where we're at. Like, once the tournament's over, we'll bygones be bygones. And that's kind of how it's going throughout this entire tournament. And we'll get back to Kings hockey. But for right now, Doughty's the enemy. And we'll all be rooting against him. As Americans, we'll be rooting against him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and it's allowing me as a fan who doesn't who's a fan of a hockey but spends most of his time watching the Kings. I get to, like you said, appreciate some players that maybe you only see once a year, and maybe they have a bad game, like Trocheck. Like I really didn't even know who he was, really, and he's been so great for that team with the faceoffs and going to been the right person for that fourth line. I love the Tkachuk brothers, and I wish they would be on our team. Like they're my favorite.
Yeah,
they're my favorite. They're my favorite non-Kings. In the
amount of Brady Tkachuk trade proposals that are going to be sent through Twitter the next couple of years are going to be insane until he finally resigns.
Until he gets out of Ottawa. Yeah, you can have whatever you want. You could take my boy Clarkey if we get Brady Tkachuk. But it's just nice. And then I didn't realize how good Austin Matthews is on defense. Like he's just
he's been incredible. Yeah, both
known for nothing but his scoring, but he's like his stick is so good on the defensive side of the puck. And like him and Jack Hughes just really have a really good connection there. And so I'm excited for that line come the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's what's kind of cool about all this, because like I mentioned, this trophy doesn't really mean much. No one's going to be looking back and it's a great game. And I'm not going to write off the excitement that I'm feeling, but I think the Olympics are probably going to mean a lot more a little bit next year, because that's where what we've all been kind of wanting, right? We even talked to Kevin Fiala, and he's waiting for his time. And I'm sure a lot of the Swiss players, even David Pasternak, had that comment. He doesn't care who wins. He's just ready for next year. And I'm sure he is. So yeah, that's why it's but it's building this excitement. I think all this pent up, I don't want to say back and forth too, and politically, the kind of bring it a little, highlighting the Canada USA rivalry a little bit, which it is what it is. I think rivalry brings a little bit more excitement into sports. But then, like you mentioned, like this long layoff where we've talked about like all these combinations of players playing together, like you said, with Matthews and Hughes now looking so good together. And that's what's been I think highlighted this a little bit more, is that we've been waiting so long to see these players play together and to see if they can play together and how they would play together. And it's been fun. It's been so fun to watch.
I think it's the rivalry. Like I have family in Canada. Every single time the USA team wins, and even in World Juniors, all of them get a text from me. Every single one of them. How about that flag? How about that flag? You know, USA, and then
a little bit, it's like that's what
they throw it back at me. You know, and so it's fun. I think it's great, and I think with the amount of viewership they got, you might see more hockey fans come from this. I think it might grow the sport quicker than the Olympics. You know, because I think with the Olympics, I think it's definitely more important.
Yeah,
but when you're watching the Olympics, people already have the events that they like. Maybe they're snowboard people, maybe they're, you know, or whatever, and they maybe not try to take a time out of their day to go watch a hockey game that might be playing at 11 o'clock, where this one was
not to mention the time differences sometimes in these European Olympics, or I think it was in Beijing one year, in Sochi even, like time differences kind of affect that as well. But like you're getting primetime games when nothing else is being played
on ABC.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's going to be it's definitely worth something. I think the fans feel it, the players definitely feel it, and it's going to be something that I think it's going to be sparking a lot of new fandom within the sport, which is always good. Like if salary caps are going to continue to go up and revenue is going to continue to go up and TV contracts, you're going to need more viewership. And they had 10.4 million, which, like I said, highest of any non-Stanley Cup game since 2014. So I don't think there's anything bad that could be said of this game. I mean, yeah, there's a few injuries, and I'm sure fan bases of those teams are going to be like, why did my player play, or yada, yada, yada. But if you think beyond the selfishness of your own team, you're really for the betterment of hockey and what we're able to see as fans. Ultimately, it's going to be better. None of the injuries that happened are going to be season enders so far. And I think this is nothing but better for the betterment of the sport.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's kind of like I'm really cautious with this game tomorrow. Like Saturday's game, great. Obviously, we're rooting for the USA to win, and big win. But I mean, the final is the final. That's where you really win the trophy. And I think a lot of it was a 2-1 game, in the third period. It was very close, and they got kind of lucky with Binnington maybe giving up a couple, the softy tweener goal to Gensel, I believe, and the Larkin goal was kind of a bad kind of line change / turnover that we don't usually see from Sidney Crosby, and then it just ended with an empty netter. And that was the game that Canada didn't have Cale Makar, considered the best defenseman, one of the best defensemen in the NHL. So he's led their team in ice time, I believe, both games he's played. So I mean, that's going to be a huge market. And not to mention, Devon Toews wasn't even really that good in Saturday. And that's probably because he's playing with a new defensive partner he's never played with before. So now that you get Toews, or not to mention Makar back, but now you get that pair of Toews and Makar back. I mean, it's going to be a close game again. This isn't going to be. I don't think USA, like you mentioned, I believe you read the odds to start. It's going to be a coin flip. Yeah, back and forth. Hellebuck's going to have to be huge, I think. Canada's going to come out firing, and they're going to test Helly. So I know that he had that one kind of soft goal in the Finland game, but since then he's been incredible. But hats off to the defense. The defensive core has been great. With you mentioned Hannafin and Faber have been playing together. They've been solid. We talked about Rowinski and Slavin, and not to mention McAvoy. Hopefully he's been good, but now he's going to be out. So hopefully Sanderson can come in and be good for them. Adam Fox has been kind of struggling a little bit, which is kind of surprising. He was on the first power play unit, and then they switched him with Rowinski right away, and they ended up scoring. But so it is what it is. It is kind of funny to see premier players, the best players in whatever teams, kind of struggle a little bit in these tournaments, and their Ranger fans are kind of wondering what's going on. They talk about Zibanejad and whatnot, but yeah. So it's gonna be a close game. I don't know. It's hard to predict, but maybe I'm saying like a 2-1 USA win. I'll say that, like a low scoring 2-1 win.
Yeah, I think there might be a little bit more score than that. I'll say a little. I'll go 3-2. Little, 5 goals.
Okay.
But regardless of whether you win or lose, I think it's going to be a win for hockey.
Absolutely.
I think the USA. I think the betterment of the sport would be if USA wins this, because going in the Olympics, that would create more spark for the sport as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it can Canada, come back from the 4 to overtake it in the Olympics and yada yada yada. I think either way, you're gonna have fans like, hey, if USA wins, we're back, man. This is our sport. And then you're gonna have people, if they lose, be like, oh well, it was just the 4 nations and we didn't have Quinn Hughes and yada yada. I think there's gonna be people on both sides for that. I'm hoping for a good game. I'm hoping that both sides bring it, just like they did on Saturday. It's a close game. It's a physical game, and there's nail-biting moments on both sides. And we get to watch another great display of the sport.
Yeah, it's crazy because the NHL is going to be in a great spot after this, and I mean this last week couldn't have gone better for them. I mean, in comparison to the NBA, with everything that's going on, they're trying to figure out like how to fix their All-Star game, and meanwhile the NHL is like getting like the globe, pretty much like the whole country and all of North America has got eyes fixated on these games. It's been an incredible week for the NHL. It's just funny because like now we got this big game tomorrow that we're talking about, like how it's one of the biggest games in years, like almost a decade, probably even more. And then Saturday we got Kings and Utah Hockey Club in LA. So it's like, all right, right back to it.
We got Morgan coming in here. Is Kreider going to be in again? So what I've read so far is McAvoy's out. Sanderson's playing for McAvoy. If some other player gets injured, they brought in another defenseman. I'm dropping his name right now. I forget.
Who was it?
They flew somebody out in case there was another injury in warmups or sickness, because there has been some sickness going around the area. And then for the forwards, they brought in Tage Thompson. So if there is 2 injuries,
Brett Pesce. That's
Pesce, yeah. So for the forwards right now, Brady Tkachuk is questionable. Matt is questionable as well. So if there's 2 injuries that are going out, you'll see Kreider and Thompson play in that game. So they're not allowed to practice with the team today. They're just allowed to be in the area, just like it happened for Canada. But Quinn Hughes did not pass a physical, so he will not be playing.
The injury is kind of like the whole Quinn Hughes thing was kind of funny to watch, but I mean,
USA fans were like, "Oh yeah, this is."
Everybody was like, "Yeah, let's go!" Like,
we're getting.
I felt like I was a little like, I wouldn't say like, I didn't really, not that I didn't want Quinn Hughes on the game, but it kind of felt like, okay, like it's hard to like insert a guy like in the last final when you hadn't played in any of the round robin games, because I feel like if you hadn't played in the round robin games, you probably shouldn't play in the final. But I get it, like there's injuries and obviously you have to replace him with somebody. So I would have rather just like, hey, if Sanderson's healthy, like play him. Like it is what it is. He already played in one of the games. He's been with the team. You see like the camaraderie too with a lot of these players who haven't played together in that 4 Nations Unveiled behind the scenes kind of thing that NHL did. So there's been like so much camaraderie like between these teams and chemistry that they've built just in this week or so. It's been fun to watch. So yeah, like I tell everybody, go watch that 4 Nations Unveiled thing after this show, of course. After the show.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We talked about in the primer, and I think the big thing is that most of these players for USA have played together. In the United States Development Team Program, they know what it's like to wear the sweater for their country. They know what it's like to play together and how great that felt to play together. And it's kind of like sparking that again. Some of the best memories I've ever had in my life were with the boys. Playing baseball, going out there in the summertime, all those good memories. I think it sparks that up a little bit. And I think the fact that they haven't been able to wear that sweater as a pro kind of gets them pumped up for that style of hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. The Tkachuks, you can tell they've been waiting for this moment for so long. I mean, I think Matthew said he's like, this is going to be the highlight of my hockey career. I'm like, dude, you just won the Stanley Cup like last year. Like, now you're talking about highlight of your career. Like, wow, okay. So yeah, like that's why we get so jazzed about it because the players are.
I saw it was a clip of him. I think it was a couple years ago, and they were talking. Oh no, it was this year, earlier this year. And somebody asked him like, "Hey, so how come you're not playing for Canada? Like your mom's Canadian?" And he just shut down the question before it even started. He's like, "No, I'm an American. Like if you talk to me, I'm American. My dad's an American. Like we're American. I'm wearing the red, white, and blue. Next question." Like it was like not even entertaining it. Yeah.
Between his dad and what he did at the '96 World Cup and what his sons are doing now, it's man, those guys are so fun to watch. So fun to watch.
And with Tkachuk not having won a Stanley Cup, but he did win that World Cup back in what it was '96, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be fun. I think it's been well worth the break. Will they have to come up with something different down the road because we'll have the World Cup, we'll have the Olympics. So will they go back to the traditional All-Star game, or will they do this Four Nations tournament or some sort of best on best tournament? I hope so. It's more fascinating to watch. I'm sure they can get more sponsorships, with the fact that the viewership was so great. And, I hope they don't let off the gas with this kind of stuff. I think it's great for the tournament and for the rest of the players in the league. I mean, they get a full week off to rest or do whatever they need to do. And I think it helps teams with, injury situations and all that. I'm the only thing that's surprised that they said trades were available during the break and we haven't really seen any.
Yeah. And I think we had that one small trade between Vegas and Nashville, like Grigory Denisenko. But I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, like there hasn't been any. As far as like this having these international tourneys every year, I think that might like be a little too much, to be honest with you. I'm happy like with the plan that they have right now, it seems like, because they have the Olympics next year, and then they're going to have the World Cup 2 years from then, and then the Olympics again 2 years from then. So I like the every other year thing. I think even McDavid said something about that today too, how he thinks every year would be too much for the players. I've always thought like, why don't they do like a U23 like international tournament then? Like they have the U20. Like U23 is always considered like a big like benchmark in terms of the NHL players. So I'm like, why don't you try something like that or go different maybe there? Or even have like a U23 All-Star game like they did in the NBA, like has something like that on the empty year that there isn't international hockey. So I'm cool with the every other year part where they have the World Cup and then 2 years from then the Olympics and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting, and I really like it. By the way, we are doing a Q&A. We're gonna be talking a little bit of trades. We're gonna be doing some Q&A after that. So if you have any questions about the Four Nations, the Kings, or the NHL, throw them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. But we're gonna be switching it over to Trade Talk, and our boy Russell. I wouldn't say it was not necessarily breaking news, but hearing some chirps around the blogosphere of the NHL that the Kings are highly interested in Tuck, Alex Tuck from Buffalo. What that package could look like is still unknown, but the Kings are definitely asking around. Russ, why don't you kind of break us in there what Alex Tuck brings to the LA Kings, what he is as a player, and what you kind of been hearing from people that you've been talking to?
Yeah, it seems like the Kings are very interested in the player. Pretty much my source said that he is a trade deadline. The Kings are eyeing Alex Tuck as highly interested in Alex Tuck as a trade deadline target. So, yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense to me because of obviously his cap hit is really low, $4.875 million. He signed for this, not only this year, he's not considered rental, so he's got this year and next year involved in that. But you kind of watch Alex Tuck play, and he seems like such like a Kings type of player. He's like Alex Iafallo like 2.0. And it's not only because of the first name, it's because of the size and the skill and the forechecking ability, that two-way kind of play he brings. He would be like a perfect addition to the top line of the Kings with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe, a revolving door of sorts that it's been pretty much all season with Alex Turcotte kind of filling it for now. So, yeah, like, I mean, in terms of Alex Tuck, we talked about him in the past. He just seems like a perfect fit for LA. Whether Buffalo it would be willing to trade that player because he's a player who's from Buffalo. Obviously, we talked about his contract. It's a great value for Buffalo, and it would be a player that I'm sure a lot of other teams would be interested in. So he's going to be a heavy price to pay. I've also heard that maybe a defenseman could be on the outs for the Kings. So whether that's Jordan Spence, who seems like a player that might not find like a long-term home with LA, or even like a Jacob Mavarara, or even a Brant Clark, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the Kings view Brant Clark as highly untouchable. So whether they can put a package together that revolves around a player like Jordan Spence, a high-end prospect, or even another roster player. I see a lot of people mention Trevor Moore's name coming to the forefront. We'll see if that entices Buffalo to move him. But I know Tuck really likes living in Buffalo. They want to keep him there, but Buffalo is a franchise that doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. I mean, they're in last place again. They're going to miss the playoffs again. I know they don't want to rebuild again, but that retool might have to come. And Alex Tuck, 28, 29 years old, when this deal is going to be over, like, is that a player that you want to keep and maybe, or even wants to stick around through this again when he's reaching in his early 30s and is on the verge of a new deal? I don't know. So, like, if I'm Buffalo, yeah, I want to keep Alex Tuck and keep him as like a player who's pretty much been one of the heart and soul guys on a team that desperately needs those type of players. Yeah, they want to, but I mean, they have to look in the future too, and look at their outlook and say, like, if we can't re-sign him, like, we have to get the most value out of him we can. And I think if I'm the Kings, like, yeah, like, it makes a ton of sense for me. Like, I don't know if it turns them, to be honest with you, I don't know if it turns them into legitimate contenders this year. If Alex, let's say, like, their only trade they make is for Alex Tuck, I don't know if that turns them into legitimate trade or Stanley Cup contenders this year. But man, like, if you get that type of player on this team next year at $4.875 million, he'd be a permanent fixture in the top 6 for this team. And you got him at that value with the salary cap going up, and you have room to make other moves. Like, that's huge. So I don't view this move so much as to help out and really catapult this team to be contenders this year. I'm looking at next year, how this really can shape the Kings to be legitimate Stanley Cup contenders in 2025, 2026.
I think it makes them contenders in the fact that before they would have to play before this trade, they'd probably have to play the best hockey they possibly could play in order to beat most of these teams. Now Alex Tuck gives them a legitimate top 6, top 9. If Byfield continues to play better as he's been playing of late, that's great. You move Alex Turcotte down, who has been playing phenomenal, that fourth line. Give that fourth line some more juice. If Drew Doughty plays like he has been in the Four Nations, now granted, he's not playing with Mikey Anderson in the Four Nations, so maybe that's kind of where the disconnect would be, or Mavrara, he has a much better line mate. But if we're getting that kind of dedicated, determined Drew Doughty, I can see us beating some teams. Like, there's still plenty of injuries. Obviously, those teams can make moves as well. So I really think it's a chance. And I think for the heartbeat of the fan for the LA Kings, it's not necessarily hoisting the Stanley Cup trophy. It's going to be making out of the first round, showing this team has some life, showing how this team can make it further in that. And it also gives some aspirations. I know a lot of fans are also saying, hey, like, let's lose so we can get a different GM. I don't know if that's even coming if we lose, right? So, like, let's root for the team to win. Let's root for the team to grow. But I do think you're right. The best part of that trade would be, one, there's no guarantees in a first round pick. If we do make, obviously we got Liam Greentree, and people say, oh, like, you can get, dart throws there. Kempe was a later first round pick and everything like that. So yeah, you can get some quality players, but do those quality players make your roster better next year? No, they don't. So that would be like a future move. And if the total goal is to make a run at the Cup with Kopitar and with Doughty, which is what they've been kind of the undertone of everything, then I think the Tuck moves makes a lot of sense, and then next during the summer, cap goes up, they can make some more moves. I believe the Provorov deal comes off the books. You get more cap space there, with a lot of, other moves. And then maybe they can sign a top free agent. Maybe they can sign a couple guys. Hopefully Lewis is off the roster permanently, so we don't have to deal with the will they, won't they on that. But I'm fine with Spence. you can't keep everybody, one. And two, like if you lock Clark's going to be there, unless you're getting an absolute difference maker to where he's an elite forward or elite defenseman and you're giving up Clark, then you'd rather keep him there. And Doughty's obviously penned in. Mike Anderson's penned in, and Gavrikov might be the only other person leaving, which then gives you 2 defensive spots to kind of play with in the offseason if Gavrikov's money gets high enough to where the Kings don't want to participate.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I think a defenseman might be on the outs here is because, maybe not to say that I want a defenseman on the outs, but Brandt Clarke has got to get playing time, right? Enough with the whole scratching him and whatnot and limiting his minutes, even taking him off the power play, which is ridiculous. Like, he needs to be getting power play time, let alone just ice time in general. And I've said it ever since even with Drew coming back and when Mikey got hurt, I wouldn't be surprised if they just go right back to the Gavrikov or the Anderson-Gavrikov pair. And the first practice, I wasn't able to make it today, but the first practice, and I know Doughty and Clark weren't there, Anderson and Gavrikov were right back together. So I don't know what that spells for Brandt Clarke in terms of if he becomes maybe the 7th defenseman on the roster when they go back to 11-7, which I expect them to go back to 11-7. So maybe Clark's the 7th guy on the roster, but I don't even know if that's enough. I think Clark deserves to be getting more than that, just to be a guy who just gets spot shifts throughout a game. He needs to be getting legitimate ice time throughout an entire game. So if you make that move where you move out of Jordan Spence and you add him with whoever, then you have a pair of, or a defensive core of Anderson, Gavrikov, whether it be Morar or Doughty, which seems like a kind of a weird pairing if you're thinking about it at the beginning of the season. But Jacob Morar, we've been highlighting how good he's been and hoping to get him more playing time. Or here you go, Jacob, go play with Drew Doughty, and you have Edmondson Clark, a pair that we've pretty much seen all year. So I don't think that's any worse than it would be before this trade, or if you do end up trading Jordan Spence. So I'm cool with that. And then, like we talked about, you get that extra year for a player like Alex Tuch on a deal where you have a ton of cap space in the Kings. I was kind of playing around with it on Puckpedia, and I believe that if they had made a deal like that for an Alex Tuch, you still have around $22 million in cap space to use. And let's say on the higher end, you give Gavrikov $7 million per year, and then you have to re-sign Alex Ferrier. Let's say he gets $3 million per year. Let's say give or take $10 million for those 2 players. That still leaves you with $12 million to spend on with only free agents like Tanner Jeannot and Trevor Lewis coming off the books. So, man, you still have a ton of room, cap space and flexibility to work with in terms of going after some probably high-profile free agents that could be available. Like Mikko Rantanen is going to be there. Brock Besser is going to be there. So you still have some flexibility to maybe sign one of those players. So I think I'm a big fan of Alex Tuch. I know it's going to be very expensive. And I don't know if even the Sabres would be willing to take a player just alone. I see people mentioning Jordan Spence at first and Trevor Moore. That might get the job done to get Tuch, but it would. I don't know. I could see even Buffalo getting a better offer somewhere else.
I saw this Holden's was posted that a Buffalo fan. I don't know if it was a fan or a Buffalo media person was saying. A lot of fans and they're saying Laugh, Spence, and Greentree would be what they'd be asking for, which I would say no to that.
Yeah, that's too much. Laugh is. Yeah. I'm biased here because obviously Laugh's my guy. I think the Kings understand how good of a player LaFerriere is going to be. I would view him almost as untouchable on this franchise. Spence and Greentree. It's funny because I see everybody talks about how Liam Greentree is untouchable, which I get it. He's incredible. I actually watched the Windsor Spitfires game the other day, and yeah, he's their best player, one of the better players in the OHL, if not the best player in the OHL. But this is I'm a haunted Kings fan where I just spent years talking about how the Kings had the best blue chip prospects in the NHL, and it pretty much turned into kind of nothing. So I'm not really on the train of all of our prospects are untouchable. If you get a pretty good player that's available, Liam Greentree is. I'm sorry, we're getting this X player in return. I don't know if I trade Liam Greentree for Alex Tuck. I'd have to be very swayed. Maybe even have to be something else involved, like a Spence. And I see a lot of people maybe mentioning like a Greentree Spence like first round pick. Like I would think that might be too much for me to get Alex Tuck. But yeah, like if you're getting like a really quality player in return, then yes. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to trade a player like Liam Greentree, to be honest with you.
For you, for the prospects, the untouchables, would you rate Clark above Greentree?
Oh, 100%. Brant Clark. Brant Clark's not getting moved. Is
that is that a positional thing for you? Is that just high? Is that a high end talent thing? You've seen it in the NHL already. Like, why is he so much different in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's the position he plays. Like you mentioned, Kings don't really have any other right defenseman that maybe can take the throne of Drew Doughty once he retires. But yeah, like some of the plays he's made just in the small sample size of his NHL career already. Like I look back at that spin move he made, an assist in the game against Vegas earlier this year. That one other move, that pass he made to Blake Lizotte last year. Like those highlight plays get me excited to think like, okay, like all the stuff that he was able to do, whether it was at the World Juniors, on the OHL, I think he can be able to pull that off with the kind of confidence he has. So yeah, for me, Brant Clark is probably as untouchable as it could get, to be honest with you.
Yeah, guys, hit that like button. Throw in some questions there in the chat. We're going to get to them right now. That's not really a question, but I thought it was an interesting comment that maybe we can kind of elaborate on. With the cap going up, do you think it's more enticing for the Kings to pay Gavrikov?
I think so. I probably view him as like this, maybe getting the same kind of deal Marcus Pettersson gets. I think Pettersson got like 5.5 for like 4 or 5 years. I could see that happening for Gavrikov. You got to look at you can't look at just the cap hit and the term as separate things. They got to be put together. And I think, what is he getting paid right now? Like 5.875 right now, close to $6 million, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I would think like $5.5 million for like 4 years is almost like a race, because you're getting that, that job security, right? You're getting that extra couple years on your contracts where you're like, okay, well, now I got this term. I'm still getting paid a good amount, so I'll have that. So I kind of look at that similar type of deal, maybe even more, maybe higher with the salary cap going up. I would say no more than maybe 6 per year for Gavrikov. So yeah, like and like look at like it's the Kings, right? Like Gavrikov, like that's the type of defenseman. Joe's talked about it on end, and how the type of defenseman the Kings like, and Gavrikov really fits that mold. So I mean, especially with how he is in the locker room and how good he is with the guys and whatnot, I'm sure the Kings wouldn't hesitate to pay a hefty penny for to keep Gavrikov around.
You would think he would. Generally, players want to hit the open market because they're going to make more money. But like Joe's been saying, like he's really just a Kings style defenseman. How many other teams in the league view him in the same ilk as,
like, how many teams were giving Joel Edmondson like 4 years, $3.875 million? Like
the Kings bid against themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Joel's agent was like, "Oh no, we got this other team." And he's like, "Oh, okay, I'll give you more, like an extra year, whatever you need."
His agent's like talking on both phones, and they're both with the Kings. Hey, I got another bid here, and I got
exactly.
Man, that's funny. I think there was another one over here. More is talking about maybe being the place that gets moved the most. Why do you think that is it just the no move clause? Is it the fact that his cap hit allows us to get maybe a better player in return? How do you kind of view him as maybe why he's maybe a fan favorite for that piece? Because last year he was scoring 30 goals. He wasn't being talked about traded at all. Is it just the play? Is the fact that the no move clause, a little bit of everything? Why do you think Morrison has been coming up a lot in trade talks?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the no move clause. You're just kind of looking up and down the Kings lineup. They don't really have many players without a no move clause. So yeah, there's that. But I think it's a player that also brings a lot of value still. Like, he's still a good player. He's still, I don't know if he's necessarily a great player, but yeah, he's still a really solid player and brings a lot to the Kings. I mean, this isn't a guy who's being looked at to score a ton of goals. I mean, he just so happened to score 30 goals. I think a lot of people maybe, I don't want to say viewed it as a fluke, but I mean, it was certainly like a surprise to see a player like Moore scoring that much as much as he's at the rate he was last year, but he's still killing penalties, strong penalty killer, strong two-way game, very fast and speedy winger, and he can score. He's shown he can. So that's a player that's going to bring a lot of value. Who's got some term tied to him as well. So there's that. So I think that's why Kings fans are probably coupling him with some trade packages, because it's a player that I'm sure other teams will view as a piece as well.
Chris Ashworth coming in here saying no Portillo in tonight's game for Ontario. They called up McKay from the Swamp Rabbits. Is there a trade brewing or injury? I know before the break they brought up a goalie from the Reign to back up Dave Riddich. What have you heard on the front from the goalies? Was everybody back at practice today? Was this them needing a third goalie for practice for the Kings? What have you heard on that front?
No, I think Portillo is actually just banged up a little bit. I believe they played up in Calgary, and he suffered an injury up there, I believe. So he's just out day to day, from what I heard. So yeah, no trade involved. It's kind of the same thing at the practice the other day when it's like, oh crap, Brent Clark's not here. Like, what's going on? And it turns out he was just getting his flight delayed or had troubles coming out of Toronto, I believe. So yeah, it's no trades on the forefront right now.
Morgan coming in here was saying, I've been seeing some fans wanting Deneau traded, but he's starting to heat up recently. We talked about this on the last pod, and I think the reason that Deneau is maybe an easier piece to move. One, teams can always use a two-way defenseman, or two-way centerman, and he's got a decent contract to be able to move. So if the Kings want to get a bigger piece than maybe an Alex Tuch, the cap situation for Deneau kind of helps that. And if you're gonna get a bigger piece, you got to give to get. And so we're talking about a huge package with Buffalo, not only with Alex Tuch, but with Dylan Cousins. And something's got to go back with that. And could Buffalo use maybe more of a sturdy two-way guy to help the structure of their team next season? He's got a better cap hit than Cousins. It allows them to make more moves in the offseason and kind of juggle their team. He's also going to be enticing for other franchises. If the Kings really wanted to make a huge move in that type of aspect, he's the type of guy that could possibly be on the way out for that. For me, I really don't see that as too much of an option. I think they love the two-way. I don't think that Byfield's really taken that next step to where they feel comfortable. The only way Deneau's on the way out is if they bring a centerman in return, I would believe.
Yeah, and yeah, we talked about it. Like I would be happy with putting a trade package together with Deneau for like a Cousins. I'm a big fan of Dylan Cousins. I know he's struggling mightily this year, and I believe he struggled last year too. But that's still a young player. I have a lot of potential in. I believe he's got a modified no trade clause too. I think we talked about it last week. But like you said, like if they're moving Deneau out, then you have to get a solid center in return. Because I mean, I remember when we signed, or when the Kings signed Deneau, like we talked about, like this isn't going to be a guy who's probably going to be a second line center or even a top line center on a Stanley Cup winning team. Like if you have him as a third line center playing like some solid like shutdown minutes, then that's great. Like that's a really good piece to have. But yeah, so you need to have Byfield and Kopitar kind of take those reins. Obviously Kopitar can, but with Byfield, who's kind of been up and down through their early parts of the season, or the first half of the season, has found a little bit lately with the line of Kevin Fiala and Alex Ferrier on his wings. So hopefully that can continue. So yeah, if Byfield can kind of continue this ascent to be the player that we all hope he can be, and I know he can be, that's huge. So now you have that 1-2 punch or 1-2-3 punch of Kopitar, Byfield, Deneau, and whether it be Hellenius or Alex Turcotte on the fourth line.
Yeah, Morgan coming in here saying, would Cousins be your plan B if they don't land Tuch? I think for a lot of the reason why we like, and I'll let Russ speak for his opinion on his own, but the reason I like the Cousins, one, he had a 30-goal season so far, so he's shown that he can play in the NHL level. He's been playing with Buffalo, who has been kind of a bottom feeder, so I think he just needs kind of a change of scenery, and it's kind of a home run style play, right? Deneau, we know what he is. Is he probably a more solid floor of a player at this moment in his career or this moment this season? Yeah, probably. But if they get more out of Cousins and they get more out of Byfield, then you're looking at you're increasing 3 lines instead of potentially losing 1 line. Now, if Cousins doesn't take that next step and neither does Byfield, then the Kings are in big trouble because then they have 2 centermen that are drafted in the top 5 that aren't really playing. And then maybe you have to make an adjustment then. But I don't think teams should plan for the negative. They should plan for the high-end ceiling. And if you can get Byfield to take that next step, you kind of relieve the stress of Cousins, put him on the 3rd line.
Yeah.
Ask him to do less responsibility than what he's been asked to do at Buffalo. And then, maybe you can get Tuck as well. Like if you do a huge package, Dano a first, then you probably would have to send Greentree at that point. So, Dano, Spence, Greentree and a 1 for Tuck and Cousins.
Let's do it. I'm done.
Something like that. I really think that the team there could really take that next step. Russ, you talked about in the last pod about Cousins. Just reiterate for him, maybe that anybody wasn't live with us. What do you see in him as a player, and why do you think he's such a great fit for maybe a trade candidate for the Kings?
Yeah, young player, centerman, has that 30-goal pedigree already. I'm not concerned really at all over these last couple of years. He's been struggling. I feel like just Buffalo's just been a black hole for just bad hockey. And I just think he just needs to get out, and we'll probably see a better player for that if that does happen. But then you got the term tied to it. I mean, as a Kings fan, if you get Dylan Cousins, your center ice position is locked up. You have, let's say you do keep like an Alex Turcotte, like Andre Kopitar has pretty much made it known he's going to retire after next year. So then your center ice position is Quentin Byfield, Dylan Cousins, Alex Turcotte, and Sammy Helenius. Like, cool, set. Like, if you can couple them and put some good wingers on their sides, and you have Brant Clark on the back end to build around with Mikey Anderson, and you have Carter George, Eric Portillo, Hampton Sakinski in net. Okay, we're starting to build a little something here to kind of get excited about, looking forward to. So, yeah, like that's why I've been a big fan of the Dylan Cousins kind of hypothetical, because that center ice position would be locked up to, and it's a position that maybe there's a lot of question marks with Quentin Byfield's play and whether he could actually be that number 1 guy for the Kings in the future. But he's starting to show a little bit, and then you got that secondary scorer or that secondary centerman behind him in Cousins if you do make that trade. So yeah, that would get me really excited.
I'm seeing a lot of people, not only online and again in this chat, saying that they wouldn't do the Cousins trade. He hasn't been playing well. Well, Cousins wouldn't be available for trade if he was playing great, right? The Buffalo would have him locked up for a cheap contract. If he was an 80-point guy and he's showing them that he could be the number 1 center and he's been slowly increasing his play, well, he's not on the table, right? Because then Buffalo did what they intended to do, which was have him and Tage Thompson be their 1-2 for the next 5 to 7 years. So it's a risk because you're trading for a guy at the low end of where his talent, he's been playing at the low end of his talent. But that's part of the gamble, to where if you get him when the team is down and he can revolutionize his career a little bit, have a new spot, get some monkeys off his back. Maybe that's kind of where he kind of takes it to the next level. I mean, you look at Velarde, like he was here. There was rumors that he really wasn't that happy with how the Kings handled him. And he goes to Winnipeg and flourishes, and he's just in a new environment, and he's allowed to focus on hockey and kind of leaves the turmoil of where he got drafted behind. And maybe that's something that Cousins can do as well, as get out of Buffalo, have a fresh slate, play for a team in a playoff hunt. That revives a lot of people and what they want to do. And maybe you come out on the right side of the stick on that one, where, he's an elite player or even a very good player for $7 million. Now the cap's going to continue going up. How, to what extent, who knows? But Dylan Cousins is at his talent level this season is a low end 2, high end 3C. And in 2 or 3 years, $7 million is going to be probably the going rate for a 2C at that point with mediocre talent. So you're locking him in at the low end of the price point, and it could really emerge from there. Who knows if it works? I think it's a gamble that maybe the Kings should take. We'll find out there. I have Al.
Taking gambling on risky centermen hasn't ruined the Kings in the past, has it?
Hey, but what are the chances of going 0 for 2?
Right, too.
Al Smith coming in here. Ryan O'Reilly is a player that he's really liking. What do you think of Ryan O'Reilly? I mean, a long-term defensive stalwart centerman there. Do you think he's an upgrade over Dano, where maybe it'd be Dano and a low middle end pick there, or do they bring him in and move Byfield to the wing permanently for the playoff run? What do you think of a kind of player like Ryan O'Reilly?
I like Ryan O'Reilly. There was a player I really wanted the Kings to sign when he was a free agent before he signed with Nashville. And remember, that was kind of a surprise sign. That was really the Nashville's way of notifying everybody that they're not going to be doing any rebuild. But I don't know. Like, I feel like it would be like a marginal upgrade, to be honest with you. I think he's definitely a better player than or in my opinion, than Dano. Definitely brings probably a little bit more offense. Yeah, like there could be a chance of like maybe moving Byfield back to the wing. But for me, like with everything that's kind of gone on, and I was kind of back and forth on this at the beginning of the season, but with how he's played lately, I just want to keep Byfield in the middle because he needs to be the centerman or needs to be a center for this Kings going forward. And I really like what's been kind of brewing between him, LaFerriere, and Fiala, because now you have him playing with two kind of cornerstones really for the next few years for this Kings team. And if they can build that chemistry together, that'd be huge and a line that'd be a lot of fun to watch going forward. So yeah, I'm not too high on O'Reilly. If the Kings didn't have Dano, then I'd be all for it. But like I said, I think it's just be a marginal upgrade over what they have now.
Krish Ashworth with another question. Would you consider bringing in Bowen Byram, a guy that we were all high on in the draft, got moved to Buffalo for a change of plan or a change of scenery? Hasn't really worked out there because they have $1 billion left shot D. Kings are kind of locked up on the left side. So do they bring him in? Is this maybe more of an off-season move than a deadline move? I don't foresee them going away from – we talked about this on the last one because I thought about Bowen Byram as well. I don't really see them going away from the status quo of the type of defenseman they're looking for because you'd have to be moving out. Either Rivara stops playing, which is a possibility, and you have Byram in there, and then Gavrikov's still on the right side, or you trade Gavrikov for Byram but does Buffalo really do that? Just considering they have tons of left shot D, is it a 3-team trade? I'm really not sure where he fits into it. I love Bowen Byram. I think he's kind of gotten the short end of the stick in his career, being that he's played in Colorado where they have a glutton of talent, and then he's stuck behind a bunch of left shot D in Buffalo. He hasn't really gotten the playing time that maybe he needs to blossom. What would a Byram look like maybe coming in this year, or is this maybe in more of an off-season style trade where, hey, they don't get to sign Gavrikov, they need to bring a guy in, and maybe trade's the way to do it?
Yeah, Byron's an interesting one because I think, like you said, like he kind of maybe gets a bad rap because of like you had just mentioned, playing behind Makar and all them, and then now playing behind Darlene and really saw Owen Power over there in Buffalo. But I was like I looked up the other day, and he has like really good numbers. He has I forget what the points were. I think it was like 34 and like 50 games or so. But so yeah, he's been producing. I just don't like you mentioned it. I just don't see the Kings viewing Byram as a defenseman that they covet. Do I see them playing him over Mike Anderson? No. Do I see them playing him over Joel Edmondson? No. Do I see them playing over Jacob Moverare? Probably not, to be honest with you, because Moverare kind of fits that same mold of Edmondson and Anderson and what the Kings kind of like. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see Byram. Like, I would love to have a player like Byram on the team. I just don't know if the Kings want to have a player like him on the team.
Tom Cruise coming in here. If I'm picking a center from Buffalo, I'm going after Tage Thompson.
Oh,
I don't think that's now that you're talking.
Everybody.
Yeah, you're talking about giving up a lot. I think Clark would have to be on the table for a Tage Thompson. Mm-hmm. Greentree's definitely on the table for a Tage Thompson. I don't know if that's a move that they would make, considering he is their number one center.
I don't even know if that's a move the Kings want to make, to be honest with you, because that's a lot that for a team like the Kings that don't have a lot of futures. And I think that's what's kind of getting lost in all this. Cause like, yeah, we're talking about maybe trading Liam Greentree. And it's like, who else? Who else do the Kings have? I mean, Cohen Zemer, solid player. He's going to be good. There's some real solid college prospects that I like. Jared Wright, Kenny Connors are playing really good in college. Ryan Comney is a name that we should be kind of talking about a little bit more, playing in New Hampshire. He's been scoring like crazy, and then not to mention a lot of the goalies. But I mean, as far as like high profile names, there's really not much. So yeah, like we want to see the Kings make moves, and I want to see them make moves. And there's obviously with all the talk heating up, but I mean, it's going to be slim pickings in this prospect pool for LA if they do.
Is it? What do you think it'd be? It'd probably have to be what, Clark, to make the cap work, and a one, or do you think
they're probably asking for like Byfield, to be honest with you, if that happened?
Byfield and Clark.
I don't know if it'd be that, but I would definitely
Byfield and a one.
Yeah, it'd be something like that. Is probably what it would probably be more. I mean, Tage is incredible player.
Let's see if you have any more questions in here. Right here, let's get the Jaquez saying, would you do a Clark for Cousins swap 1-for-1?
I would not. No,
I would not either. Let's see if we have any more questions in here. Throw them in. Oh, there we go. Marchessault. Plan B? What do you think about Marchessault right there?
I won't say no, but like 34 years old. I think he's got 4 or 5 more years left on his deal. I don't know. Like, even like, I know this, if you made a trade for Marchessault, it probably wouldn't be that expensive, to be honest with you. You'd be able to keep all your high-end prospects. And I know, like, Marchessault's obviously a winner. I see Tom Cruise mentioning he's a playoff MVP, so he's got that. So, I mean, for a team that probably needs some more winners on this team, on a youthful Kings team, that would definitely help. But man, that's a scary contract to take in, 5.5 per year, up to him turning 38 years old. I mean, that gives me a little hesitation.
But the cap's going up there, Russ.
It is. It's still, I don't know. I'd rather use that space for other names. Like if that's like, let's say like if it's you're separating $5.5 million that you could use to upgrade like from a Brock Besser to like a Mikko Rantanen or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather like, or even just sign like another like better backup goalie. I don't know, like something, get a better forward. To be honest, I don't know. I'm not there on Marchessault, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you guys for coming in and listening here. We're going to be talking about all King stuff going in next weekend, and the trade deadline's coming up. We always have our trade deadline special, which I believe we're doing again this year. We'll just keep an eye out for that. It really just depends on the day and what we got going on, but we like to do that long draft day special. All of our articles coming out at hockeyroyalty.com. Please hit that like button on the way out. Team USA all the way, baby, Russ. Let's take it tomorrow. Let's get the methodical Four Nations trophy to put in the mantle, and let's watch some good hockey. Again, and always on this podcast, go Kings go.